En Lefko 87.7.
Hey, this is Hozier, and you're listening to En Lefko 87.7.
Take Me to Church was a huge success that resonated with very different audiences, pop, rock, eclectic, all around the world. Did you imagine it would be such a genre buster when you were creating it?
No, I didn't. I didn't imagine anything beyond. When I was kind of writing it, I didn't know what to imagine about it. I think I was happy with the work, and I was proud of the song, and I thought it worked as it was something I was very happy to have written. The kind of it becoming a hit or becoming a radio hit or even like a pop hit was very, very surprising to me, I think.
Who was back then the first person who ever believed in you?
Back when I was writing music, I suppose it has to in some ways start with your own self, and I mean that in a kind of like when you're even younger, you have to have some foolish sort of blind belief. You know, it may not be at that time a reasonable or rational belief, but it's a drive to kind of keep exploring something. And then I had a lot of very good support, I have to say. My parents were supportive. I had an uncle who was very supportive as well too of me kind of producing my own work in a big way. So yeah, very fortunate.
Your dad and mom being in art and music respectively, did they make it more supportive for you to be a musician, or were they like, try different daytime jobs?
They were. I think I don't know how long they would have been as patient as they were. Again, I suppose it was 2000, just after the kind of like the financial crisis. So, and I had left college knowing, I wouldn't say knowing, but suspicious that had I stayed for 4 years in college, I would be completely unemployable and also have less. I was studying music at the time, not even a teaching degree. Yeah. So I would have to do another degree to teach. And I felt like I wouldn't have the skills. I needed to develop the skills to do what it was that I felt I needed to do, which was to write contemporary songs and write songs that I fell in love with growing up. So they were very supportive. It was a difficult conversation to say, I'm gonna leave college now, because they were always pointing us towards academic success, but I had checked out at that stage, you know.
It was a good bet. So Wasteland Baby is your second studio album. Were you nervous before releasing it, and was it hard to write again and to fill your own big shoes?
Mm-hmm. Was I nervous? I think there's always nerves. There's always nerves releasing work. There's also just relief. I think there's like a real sense of relief. I think I knew, I suppose I get, you know, following up success like Take Me to Church, I get asked a lot about concerns trying to follow that up or trying to meet that success. I think there was a lot of things that happened for that song that were unique, and it didn't sound like a radio hit. I wasn't writing with radio writers or like a team of kind of pop writers. If I was trying for chart success, you know, there was a lot of things you can't recreate about something that happens to a freak song like that. My ultimate concern was making sure I was approaching the ethos of work and approaching an ethos and sort of approach the work with the same way that I approached that song, and that's what I tried to do. What's
your favorite track on the album and why?
That's a hard one. It's like picking a favorite child.
I know.
Yeah. I really like Wasteland Baby, the title song. I think there's something calming about it, and it seems to sum up a lot of what the rest of the record is about. You know?
As listeners, we read themes of romance, civil rights, existentialism in your lyrics, and that's always fun in terms of the listener and how they perceive you. But what is it that captures you and drives your songwriting?
That's a really good question. I would think ultimately, I would hope that looking back, it's trying to take the long view of history and the long view of songs and what songs are and what they offer us over time. So even, you know, songs that are written 100 years ago and we still find things in them that are very revealing about ourselves and liberating, and we find a lot of hope and a lot of joy in them. The hope would be you can offer something that after time somebody can look back and think that was a worthwhile thing to write at the time, you know what I mean, and that you're trying to reflect in some way some part of the world that you're living in and reflect it honestly as best you can, and that's somehow a useful thing to do or a worthwhile thing to do, I suppose.
And is it safe to assume that's what you're referencing in your second song, Almost, Sweet Music, like that tribute?
Definitely, yeah. So Almost Sweet Music, yeah. There's a lot of old songs in that and kind of, yeah, totally old jazz standards. And
was it your father that gave you all this Bill Evans and Chet Baker and Ella and Nina Simone kind of influences?
It's a mix. I think I would have leapt off Chicago blues and Texas blues from my dad's record collection. He had a few jazz albums, Ronnie Scott's live albums, from jazz clubs. He had some Nina Simone, some Billie Holiday in the house. I remember listening to Nina Simone for the first time and just being completely altered by it. and then was fascinated with jazz. But then because I was more of a singer, listening more to Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, and then discovering Chet Baker as my teens went on and my late teens. So yeah, I think it's like anything. Once you get a hook in, once you're hooked on something, you just want to know everything about it.
So in Nina Cried Power, you collaborated with Mavis Staples, this amazing R&B and gospel singer and civil rights activist, and Booker T. Jones plays the organ. How did these collaborations come about? Yeah,
in the case of Mavis Staples, I was incredibly fortunate. I had nearly gotten the opportunity to work together on something. There was a few times I was hoping to meet up. It never worked out. Our schedules kept. She tours as much as I do. It's amazing. She's in Ireland.
80.
She's 80 years old. Yeah, and she's in Ireland at the moment. Actually, she's playing a show tonight. So there was talk of us maybe getting together on her previous record to maybe work on something or write something. That never worked out. But when I heard about that, I would have given my right arm to work with Mavis Staples. So when this song was written, it was a no-brainer, and she's one of those names. Is one of the artists referenced in the song, and she kind of, I think her work really embodies kind of what that song is about. And with the case of Booker T. Jones, it was such an honor. And the first band I was ever in, we used to cover Booker T and the MGs, and we used to cover Stax arrangements. And when I was on the road, I think a message actually had come through from Booker T via Twitter. It was like a DM, and it was like, it just said, if ever there's an opportunity to work together. I don't know how I appeared on his radar. I think he overheard me speaking about him in an interview, perhaps. So when this album came around, there was talk of Hammond organ, and there's no name more synonymous with Hammond organ than Booker T. Jones. Both
your mom and brother have been involved in this project with the album cover and the video. Is it hard to work with family?
Yeah, I mean, it has its ups and downs. I think it's great because you approach things with a very similar language, and oftentimes with a very similar outlook. So it's not like you have to get to know somebody that you're gonna be working with. You share a lot of values and you share a lot of points of view. It's kind of finding a way to communicate clearly and honestly, But yeah, it's been very fruitful for me. I've been very fortunate, and I'm very close to my family.
So it's been 6 years since your first EP and breakthrough. How did you imagine it before you made it? Mm-hmm. And have you eased into the good and bad that definitely comes with fame and recognition?
I definitely didn't imagine what happened would take me to church. I think for me, I would have been content with, I thought I would be quite a slow growing, independent kind of indie artist. And I suppose success for me, especially being a college dropout, was imagining a point where you can sustain yourself fairly modestly, just, pay the bills and pay the rent. With music, which again is very, very difficult for artists and musicians. So for me, if you could wash your hands and play enough shows to keep you going, great. That would have been success. And I think being respected, I think is really, or just hopefully making work that people enjoy and people respect or whatever, great. That's your bonus. How do you cope with it then when it's all there? I don't know. I think the best thing you can do is to not believe your own hype and not believe your own BS. So is to kind of stand at a distance from the nice things that are said about you. I think that's very healthy.
I think the best thing I've read that you've said that resonated was how people see you differently and how there's this otherness of yourself, I think.
It's weird. It's weird because you become two people nearly, or
you can't see what they see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very much.
You have said that the bad parts of fame are hardly a cost to pay for the opportunities that you're given. Mm-hmm. What opportunities has it opened up for you?
Oh, countless. I couldn't even begin. So, I think being able to travel so much, being able to play music, being able to get the opportunity to, let's say, play with somebody like Booker T. Jones, work with Mavis Staples, and people I think, Mavis Staples I think is one of the most important artists of her generation, that's just an absolute joy and an honour, and then, if nothing else, being able to not worry about so many things that I used to worry about, that's really, that's everything, I wouldn't say everything, but that's one of the biggest blessings,
Do you think songwriting is more about the music you write or the lyrics that you put through?
For me, I think it's more the lyrics. I think music will kind of come and go, and you have 12 notes, you've really 12 notes to play with, you have 8 notes to play with in a major scale. And ideas come and go naturally, and they you kind of catch them and you work with them. I think lyrics are where the story is, and it's where the person and the heart is captured, and it's where the intention is captured. And yeah, it's where the story is, and that's where the communication is, and that's I suppose that's what you're trying to do with any art form, you know.
What do you do when you don't play, work, or listen to music?
I don't know. You'd have to catch me in a time when I'm less
on tour.
So yeah, I would have loved to be at the Acropolis, but I'm working on demos at the moment. So I have to go for walks. When I'm home, I would walk or swim. You know,
okay.
Little normal things.
Do you remember, since we're in radio, the first time you ever heard your song on the radio, where you were, how you felt?
Yeah, once or twice. I was usually on a train commute, so I was usually taking what's known as the Dart, which is this Dublin area train along the coast. I was kind of commuting in and out of college, or the college I was still doing projects in. I think the first time I ever heard it in a public place was from the office of a ticket window, which was weird. And then the second time I ever heard it was on the train, out of the headphones of a stranger sitting in front of me. And at the time, everybody in Ireland, no one knew what I looked like. Everybody thought I was an American actor anyway, so it was very strange, yeah.
Do you believe that now that you can make, hits from your bedroom, basically, that this rise of the internet and technology, is it easier or harder for new artists to be heard?
That's a very tricky one. I think there was a time where it might have been easier, or there would have been a time where it was more democratized. I think there will always be, when there is a kind of a democratized platform, there's always going to be a way where the traditional players that held all the cards and who were the gatekeepers of what a hit is and what a hit isn't, they will always find a way to consume that platform. That's pretty much happened. I think I was very, very fortunate in the time that I was in. And I think in a lot of hits that you hear on the radio, you do find kind of a lot of artists are kind of being signed for big sort of viral hits, and that does happen. But they're still teamed up with huge production houses, and there is still a lot of marketing money behind them. So I think ultimately it is a good thing for having your work heard, and yeah, definitely. And how much technology and what you can do with just a laptop and a microphone is outrageous, which in a really great way. You know. The
stadium is going to be full of fans cheering. The music is about to start. Lights go on. What goes through your head at that exact moment? This
will be funny. Just as you're walking on stage, the last thing I do usually is check my pack, which is my in-ear pack, and check my fly. So yeah, once you check your shoelaces, just making sure that you're zipped up is like pretty much.
That's a good advice for other musicians.
You don't want that to happen. Yeah. I know that sounds so silly, but
no, it's actually practical. Good advice.
En Lefko 87.7.